Hey everybody, before we start the show, I just wanted to let you know that Gen Con is coming up and you should get tickets to the DSPN Q&A panel. Come check it out. There are going to be so many amazing people there. Mike Shea, Rudy Basso, Venture Maidens, the Dames and Dragons will be there. It is going to be an awesome time. So head on over to gencon.com and get your tickets for this event. It is going to be awesome. There will be a secret after party afterwards. In addition, I wanted to let you know that there are some Roll20 panels you should check out that I am going to be part of because I've been doing work with Roll20 as I always have been, and it's going to be really fun. So check out Exploring a New Game System for a Digital Tabletop Era, and From Pen and Paper to Virtual Tabletop, Designing Through the Cultural Shift. So check it out. I'm going to be on both of those panels as well with some other really awesome people announcing some really, really cool stuff. Can't wait to see you at Gen Con if you are going. Let's start the show. This is Tabletop Babble. I'm James Introcaso. Today on the show, I am talking with game designer Jonathan Tweet. Jonathan, you may know as the lead designer for 3rd edition D&D or for 13th Age. He has worked on a lot of awesome stuff. And today we are going to be talking about his Kickstarter for Over the Edge, which is a relaunch of an old role-playing game he made back in the 90s. Jonathan has such love for this property he has created, and it sounds really, really cool. I've already contributed to the Kickstarter. It's already funded, but you are going to want to check it out. And it's an amazing chat with just a brilliant game designer. We get really into some of the fun mechanics he's got going for this game. So anyway, here is my chat with Jonathan Tweet. All right, everybody. Now I am here with a game design legend, Jonathan Tweet. Welcome to Tabletop Babble. Jonathan, for people who don't know, who are you and what do you do in the world of tabletop role-playing games?
Hi, thanks. That's a great introduction. Maybe I'm old enough to be legendary now. I've been doing tabletop role-playing games for over 30 years. So I did Ars Magica with Mark Reinhagen back in 1987 and Over the Edge in 1992 with Robin D. Laws and Everway in 95. And then in 2000, I was the lead designer on 3rd edition of D&D at Wizards of the Coast. So that was a really big opportunity to get my work known by more people. And then more recently, 13th Age. It's Rob Hainsel was the lead designer on 4th edition, and he's my best friend. So we worked together to come up with sort of our version of D20 rolling owlbear fighting fantasy called 13th Age. So I've done other stuff, but really I've devoted my career to tabletop role-playing games.
You are super awesome. I love your work. I've played a lot of what you have made. 13th Age is amazing. 3rd edition D&D, super fun. It's awesome to have you back here and to be talking with you. And you mentioned Over the Edge, which is what you're here to talk about today, because Over the Edge has a new Kickstarter, which as of this conversation has already funded. So congratulations.
Yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah, it's awesome. This is day one that we're talking. So you out there in listener land, right now while we're talking, head on over to Kickstarter or to the Don't Split the Podcast Network website. You can click on the link as we talk about Over the Edge and explore it with us. So what is Over the Edge? Let's start there. It's a role-playing game, but what is it all about?
It's a free-form, story-oriented role-playing game. It's really designed to unlock the imagination of the players. So it's based in a weird modern setting, this island of Alamarja out in the Atlantic, sort of a pariah state or an outlaw country. Because it's sort of this weird modern setting, people can make up whatever characters they want and bring them to this island and have all sorts of crazy adventures. It's conspiracies and mind control and UFOs and ancient evil and psychic powers and super rats. And, it's the baboons. It's got everything. And I originally created it to be an unpublishable game. It was too freeform and sort of too out there, and sort of the humor was too dark and too twisted. And but John Nephew, back in around 1990, he insisted he wanted to publish it, and he did. It turned out great, actually, and now we're back doing it again 25 years later with a new, all new version, better than ever.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, just looking at the people who are working on this and the amazing art that you already have for this, I'm super, super, super excited. You said you set out to make an unpublishable sort of game. Why was that? Why did you set out to do that? Because I think a lot of people would think, huh, that doesn't seem like a fruitful endeavor.
So this was like 1990, and I had split up my partnership with the Lion Rampant Business publishing Ars Magica with Mark Reinhagen. And I was starting a new life, selling mutual funds, and I wanted to play role playing games for fun. I thought I was never going to do professional role playing game stuff again. And so I just wanted a game that I could play, that my friends would have fun at, that they wouldn't have to read the stupid rules. They wouldn't have to learn all about the setting to make sure they could make their character that was in line with all the canonical stuff about the setting. Like, I had come from Ars Magica, which was wizards in the Middle Ages. So you had to know all the stuff about how to make your wizard character and how to point by their spells, and what country you're in and how you're related to the historical trends of the period or whatever. Like, it was heavy duty to get someone to play a character. And I wanted a game where I could just say, hey, make up some crazy character, some weird guy, you're coming to this crazy island and crazy stuff's going to happen. Go.
It's so cool that it's like, hey, this was a thing I wanted to play with my friends. And so what made you decide, you know what, I do want to turn this into a publishable thing. I do want to make this a game that I can share with other people.
That's a great question. So John Nephew found out about it and contacted me and said he wanted to publish it. He said, this is just the sort of thing that I set up Atlas Games to do, is this kind of cool new stuff. And I kind of tried to talk him out of it. I was like, I specifically made this game. I made all my design decisions for an audience of me and my table. And, I never thought about, I specifically refused to think about making a game with other people in mind. But no, he said that's what he wanted to do. And so he was right. We went ahead and published it, and it did great.
Wow. That's really, really cool. And is that what brought you back into the tabletop role playing game industry?
That is basically it. Yeah. Now, then I ended up getting a job offer from Wizards of the Coast, and so that
Sure.
sort of cemented it. But by that time, I had already stopped selling mutual funds and was plowing myself back into game design.
Sure, sure. Yeah. I mean, both have a lot of math, I guess, involved, right?
Yeah, I don't know. There's not a lot of similarity between those two.
Sure, sure. Yeah, that makes sense. So here it is. It's Over the Edge. What is different about this new edition? You know, you said this came out in 92. Is that what you said, the first?
Yep.
So we're here over 25 years later, looking at the next version. How different is it?
So it's all new. So if you know the game and love the game, there's nothing in this book that you have to skip because you already know it. Everything is new. So I've taken all the old characters, all the proper names, what have you, and they are still there and they still fulfill their role to some degree, but everybody's different. Everything has a new take on it, or a new spin, or a new connection to the other mysteries on the island. And so it's, for the person who already knows it, it's all new and fresh. None of it takes what happened 25 years ago as canon and then just updates it like 25 years later, here's what their kids are doing. There's nothing like that, because the original Over the Edge was designed specifically to be open-ended, where you could invent sort of whatever you could imagine in the modern day happening in some weird back alley, or some, crazy laboratory, or some weird cult that could happen in Alamarja.
So that idea that like anything you can imagine can happen. It sounds like this is like a really wide open system. It sounds like there aren't a lot of restrictions or parameters in the setting. Is that right?
Right. That's pretty good. There are some restrictions because there are some things you can make up that are no fun to play, and so that's spelled out. Like you can't make up the mind control person who controls everybody's minds because it's really boring to play. Or maybe it's exciting for the player, but it's boring for everybody else at the table. So there are some things that are limited, but by and large, no, you come up with the style of character that you want. As a group, you set sort of what power level you want. You can be sort of just experts, or you can be elites, or world class sort of specialists, or however you want to play it. The whole idea was to make it pretty wide open and for people to make up their own stuff. And so one of the things that I coach the game master to do is for every character that the players create, you as the game master create a game master character, an NPC that corresponds to them somehow. That it's going to be like that's the special person you're putting into the world in order to interact with that player character. So it can be a rival, it can be a love interest, it can be something ambiguous that's just someone who is bound to cross paths with that character in an interesting way. You don't know ahead of time how it's going to play out. The point is to make it so open-ended that you can invent your own stuff really easily and invent the stuff that makes sense for you and your campaign rather than always looking in my book and trying to figure out how you're going to use my own ideas. My ideas. Use your own ideas.
Oh, I love that. And I love that it really, that idea puts the players right at the center of the story too.
Exactly.
Which is great because it's, it sounds like it's very player driven, is, that they are the ones helping tell the story rather than sort of being dragged along through a story the game master has created.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So for example, one trait that every character has is called that character's trouble. And that is the interesting way that they get into trouble. Because if you look at lovable characters in literature or movies or what have you, there's something that gets them into trouble. Maybe they're overconfident. Maybe they feel obliged to help the innocent when they're in danger. Maybe, that there's something that pulls people off the beaten path. And a lot of times in a movie, you see a character doing something that they shouldn't do, and they know they shouldn't do it, but they're doing it anyway, and that's part of the fun. And so in Over the Edge, you give your own character this trouble trait so that everyone at the table knows that's the kind of trouble your character is going to get into over and over again. And the game master can create characters to fit that, and the other characters can sort of riff off that. And it's a way of everybody sort of agrees ahead of time. We're not in it just to get the most gold pieces and lose the fewest hit points and tackle this dungeon the smartest way we can. We're in this to mix it up and have characters that interact with the world and find out what happens. And so, yeah, the players are sort of pulled into playing that role right from the start. Before the dice even roll, they're already thinking about what their character is going to do in the game.
Yeah, that is really, really cool. And it's fun to give players the motivation to do dumb things, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, it sounds like it makes for a really, really interesting story. What are some of the characters you envision people being able to play within this universe?
So sort of the center of it all would be sort of paranormal conspiracy secret agent stuff. So, that's coded messages, mind control, psychics, chemtrails, mind control satellites beaming images into people's heads, that sort of stuff. And so the characters are the sort of people who could get tangled up in that. They might be some sort of agent or actor, somebody who is investigating weird things, or a scientist who's tracking stuff down, or somebody who has some personal reason to come to this island and look up the people in this cult or what have you. But then, depending on sort of what story arc the players want to play, the characters are going to vary to sort of fit a theme. So a lot of times you'll pick a particular theme to be the thing that holds all the characters together. So maybe you're all members of this far-flung jet set family with ancient sort of mystical roots. And so you all maybe know each other and maybe have worked together and have some history together, and you're all coming to this island for this some excuse that the game master is setting up. And so then everyone creates their characters within that framework. So there's this give and take where a lot of times the game master sets up what the story arc is going to be like, then the characters or the players create characters that fit that story arc, and then the game master creates incidents or game master characters that then relate to the characters that the players have created. So it's this back and forth. And you even have a staged part of play every session where the players ask questions of each other about their characters. And it tends to be sort of out of character stuff. Like, what is your character most afraid is going to happen next? And it's not something that the character is asking another character, but one player wants to know that about another player's character. And so you're always sort of looking ahead and trying to figure out what the stories are that are developing out of your characters.
Oh, I love that. I love that the players are asking each other questions about their characters. I think that's really, really cool.
Yeah, that comes from my game Everway from 1995, which was just a couple of years after Over the Edge, and it's a really good format.
Yeah.
And like,
it keeps people engaged when someone else might be the center of attention, which is cool.
So another thing that to keep people engaged is in Over the Edge, players have an explicit sort of right to play extras, to play random people that are in the scene. So if your character is not involved with what's going on and some other characters are at some party and your character is not there, you as the player can like play some party goer or a dancer or a stage magician or somebody that doesn't take attention away from what the player characters are doing in that scene, but that sort of help get across the idea that there's this crowd and there's things happening all around you. And so we play it pretty fast and loose.
That is really awesome that you're able to jump into the scene. So it really does have this great storytelling focus. So mechanically, how are things resolved? Are we using dice? Are we using, cards? Okay.
It's a great question. So the one thing that I felt like did not really hold up from the 1992 version is the mechanical system. I mean, I think it is decent. It's fine, but it doesn't really let you do cool new things the way Over the Edge would want you to. And so I came up with a new system this time where whenever you cast your lots, whenever you throw your dice, you're throwing 2 6-sided dice. And depending on the circumstances, you might get to re-roll some of the low die, or if the odds are against you, the game master might make you re-roll high dice. But once all the re-rolls are done, you're left with 2 dice on the table, and that the total of those 2 dice tells you whether you succeed or not. Higher is better. And then if you got a 3, something bad happened, unexpected. If you got a 4, if either one of those dice comes up a 4, or either one comes up a 3, either something good or something bad happens. Good on a 4, bad on a 3. Really bad if it's 2 3s, and really good if it's 2 4s. So what that means is, in addition to succeeding or failing, there's this non-linear result that sort of jumps in from the side of either like, surprise, something good happens, surprise, something bad happens. And you can even get the bad thing, a 3, on a success. You can roll a 3 and a 6. Your total's 9. You succeeded at what you're trying to do, but you rolled a 3, so something bad happened anyway.
Oh, yeah, that's so great. It's such a great way to complicate the story that, like, even if you feel confident you're going to succeed at a thing, you could still make a bad thing happen.
That's right. And that's, you see that in literature and movies all the time. It's like, yes, you succeeded, but... right? Or, oh, no, you were defeated. Oh, but this cool thing happened, or what have you. And for me, it's really important to have something nonlinear that it sort of happens or doesn't happen, because that carries more emotional weight. The old system, you just got a number. And the difference between getting a 17 and a 16 was hardly any difference. And in this result, you either get a 3 or you don't. And you either get a 4 or you don't. And so every time you're rolling, interesting things can happen, good and bad.
When you're designing games, do you try to put that nonlinear sentiment in your other games as well?
I do now. So actually, honestly, I learned this from Rob Hinso. We're creative partners on a lot of stuff, and we were creative partners on 13th Age. And one of the things that he did in 13th Age is that in addition to hitting you or missing you, a monster might get a special attack or some special bonus based on the D20 roll. So you might have a monster that says, um, it's +7 to hit, but then if it rolls at natural 16 or higher, in addition to hitting, it grapples you or what have you. And so now there is more than just like, hit or miss. There is hit, miss, or this other cool thing that can happen or not. And so it puts more weight on the individual die roll. There's more happening with that roll. And the more weight you put on a die roll, the more important it is, the cooler it is to watch. And so like every throw of the dice in over the edge means something.
I love that there's always going to be something happening, right? The idea of success having a consequence or, that sort of thing is always super fun.
Yeah. The other important thing is that failing is not a null result. So in Dungeons and Dragons or in Over the Edge, the first edition, if you rolled a hit and missed, nothing happened, right? And so your results are either I do something good or nothing, and then the opponent rolls dice and maybe they hit or don't do anything. So lots of the time there's a null result. That's boring. And I really like what Vincent Baker does in Apocalypse World, where you make your dice throw to see what happens, and sort of your rolling low means you're getting hit by the monster or whatever. It's not a null result; it's a negative result. And so something always happens when you throw the dice in Apocalypse World. There's never just a zero.
Exactly. I love that too. It makes for a very rich story when there is a consequence for failure and not just well, I guess I'll try picking this lock again until I roll what I need, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, everybody. I just wanted to let you know that this podcast is brought to you by Kobold Press, who this month is featuring the Zobak Gazetteer for 5th edition, a city book that works in Midgard, their premier campaign setting, or anywhere. It features NPCs and locations like the Arcane Collegium and the Kobold Ghetto, and has amazing NPCs from troll bouncers to the Mouse King. Hooks and lore for the gangs, guilds, and gods of the city are totally included, and also included is the School of Clockwork Magic, backgrounds and feats for Gearforged and humans, plus magic items unique to the setting. If you know Kobold Press, you know they do amazing work. Tome of Beasts, Midgard campaign setting, the Kobold Guides to Deep Magic. I could go on. You're going to want to check out the Zobek Gazetteer because it's by friend of the show and amazing game designer James J. Hake. So go check it out right now. You can get it at the Kobold Press store. Search for the Zobek Gazetteer. That's Zobek, Zobeck. So it looks like this is going to be a really super fun game. And you've also got some super awesome art here on the Kickstarter page. Who's drawn this stuff? This looks amazing.
Oh, that's a good question. I'm not the art director.
Oh,
And
gotcha.
so
Okay,
I
sure.
didn't work with the artist directly, I'm afraid.
Everybody should go check it out because I think it's got a real sort of immersive feel for the world. And that kind of brings me to the specifics of the world. So when I was going through, I never got to play the first Over the Edge, but as I was going through, I saw sort of these things like, hey, what's changed? Well, the police are still corrupt. And it was like, oh, what? Hang on. So let's talk a little bit about some of sort of the established pillars you have in the world that make it a fun place to tell a story.
Yeah, all right. So Alamarja, it's island in the Atlantic, outlaw island. The official title is it's the ultimate democratic republic of Alamarja, and so it's run by this oppressive state that, always talks as though it has the best interests of the people in mind, but it's, this oppressive surveillance state that runs on corruption. And then the sort of the high point of the island is this big city called the Edge, and it's sort of a metropolis where anything can kind of happen. It's divided into these districts that are all distinct from each other, almost like little towns. And so you can go from district to district and have very different experiences. So some of them are like really run down and weird. One of them is patrolled by baboons, where the sort of the people that run security in that neighborhood train baboon troops to wander around and keep an eye on people. And then if the enforcers need to get into a fight, they'll give out a baboon call, and baboons will come screaming in from all directions and help them fight. So that's sort of the low end, and then in the high end, you have this beautiful neighborhood where everything's clean and nice, and the streets are literally a floor. And underneath that floor, there's like the ground level where the workers all work in the dark, sort of like in a big parking garage. And so, the workers never have to come out and be seen in the nice neighborhood. They all have to work underground and access the buildings through the basement and what have you. It's really a reflection of America, or a reflection of Western civilization, and all the crazy stuff that happens in this world, the inequality and the exploitation, but also the creativity and the innovation and what have you. So there's also sort of a fun-loving side to the Edge that values art and personal expression and what have you. So it's more than just gritty dystopia, but it's definitely always a little twisted. Even the good things can be a little twisted.
Totally. It sounds like it. I love this idea of, this place out in the Atlantic where bad people gather. Well, not bad people, right? But
well, a lot of bad people. But yeah, yeah, it's a great place for players to imagine, because you start with a city. People sort of understand what a city is, and then you can put whatever you want into it. It's a big enough city that, if you just want to add, hey, there's this whole cult here and it's got a big cult compound and what have you, there's plenty of room to drop that into the city anywhere you want to. So in one of my story arcs, one of the players was a Christian necromancer, and he specified, we through questioning, through asking him at the beginning of one of these sessions, we asked him who his enemies were, and he came up with this, televangelist cult leader who denies sensuality as the sort of his enemy, chief rival. And so that guy got a cult. We just added that cult into the background in the island. It fit right in. And then that became part of the story when someone tried to win the love of a woman and she rejected him and went off to join this cult where all pleasure was denied or whatever. So, and that all started out of some player character's concept. And because the setting is designed to accept whatever people come up with, we were able to invent that cult and just drop it in, fit right in.
Wow, that's awesome. About how long, like, if you pick this up, and how long does it take to like sit down and start playing, creating characters and stuff like that?
So you can sit down and start playing in one evening. You can create characters, explain everything to everybody, talk to everybody about everybody's characters, do some back and forth with the game master. You can do that with a group in an hour easy. We do lots of really short like con scenarios or whatever, but you can, because the system is so simple, there's no point by, you don't have to look up what class you are or write down your, list of skills or anything. So you can create characters super quick, and then play happens really fast. This is something that took me by surprise. It used to be that once you started a fight, then, now for 45 minutes, you're going to be rolling dice and doing some arithmetic and subtracting hit points, and everything was going to slow down. But now you can do the fight. You can have each player roll their dice once for the whole fight. Maybe it's twice for a big fight, but it's fast. And so you just keep moving. It's sort of like a movie where instead of simulating every step that the character does and like rolling dice for everything they try to do, you're rolling these dice to sort of see how a scene resolves or see how a conflict resolves. It goes really fast.
So is it easy to die?
It's not that easy to die.
Okay.
Actually, there's no actual combat system, but there's a system for taking damage. You can get hurt all sorts of ways other than combat. Basically, if you get wounded in some way, we call it a strike. Like if you get 3 strikes, you're out. So you can get bludgeoned, and that's your first strike, and you can get electrocuted, and that's your second strike, and then and then at that point you're on last legs, kind of. And if something happens to you, like you get battered or get roughed up or whatever, that's your third strike, and then you're out of the fight, which might mean that you're dead, or it might mean that you're just sort of incapacitated. It all depends on the situation. So you have some script immunity. Things can go bad, and things are going to go bad all the time, because every time you cast your lots, there's a chance that they're going to come up with a 3. So bad things are going to happen, but usually that doesn't involve dying. You're not rolling for damage or whatever, so you don't have like a critical hit. You don't have people sort of being killed by surprise like you do sometimes. But oh yeah, you can die, and you can, and all sort of. Also, honestly, depends on where you are in the story arc. Like if you're getting to the conclusion of something, then your script immunity is going to be a lot lower, right? You're getting to the end of like a story arc, and a conclusion is coming anyway. And now I think the game master is going to be more lethal.
Jonathan, you've had this incredible career and you have this incredible body of work, right? Third edition D&D, I think, right, a lot of our listeners will be familiar with that as a very mechanical system that said, hey, here's the way you can do a lot of different things in the game, right? And then 13th Age, which is this just amazing game that marries story and mechanics in a really cool and interesting way, and is super fun. And now it sounds like with this latest edition of Over the Edge, we've got like a heavy storytelling focus. How is it that you are able to make all different kinds of role-playing games, and is that intentional? Have you sort of sought out different experiences?
I don't think it's intentional. I just am not interested in repeating myself. That's really it. Like I just don't want to repeat myself. I've got other ideas. I got other stuff I want to do. I've done stuff that's not role-playing games. I wrote the first children's book to teach evolution to preschoolers, and a card game about evolutionary relationships among animals. Yeah, I just have too many interests or have too many things that I want to do to ever repeat myself. And that's why I steered clear of this project for years, honestly. For years, I was saying, I'm not going to do Over the Edge again, right? That Over the Edge is this amazing, fresh, groundbreaking thing that did things in a new way and, got people talking and inspired people to create their own games and what have you. And I didn't want to go back to something that was that fresh and have it be a retread, right? 25 years later, now their kids are grown up. And I also didn't know what I would do mechanically, right? Like I knew the old system was not what I would want because it's just slow and old fashioned, but I didn't have any idea for what to do next. And so, yeah, I steered clear. And this is the first time I've really come back to something of my own and redid it. And I wasn't able, I refused to do it until I knew that I could really contribute again. Like this would really be worth it in its own right as something new and special in the way that Over the Edge was special 25 years ago. And once I figured that out, then wow, yeah, this is great. I've had a ton of fun. It's an amazing project.
It's interesting because you essentially have created something very new, right? Like you said at the beginning of this, the rules are not familiar at all if you know the old Over the Edge. So I think that is very telling sort of about what you said, that you couldn't do it until you could make it a new thing, which is interesting.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I have to say, I very much appreciate that spirit, and I think it's super cool. Whenever I see you working on something, I get very excited. And I know this podcast isn't about this, but I would love to just shout out Grandmother Fish, the book you mentioned for preschoolers to teach evolution. I think that's awesome. And it's great to get kids started thinking about science early.
Yeah. It's even kind of a role-playing game because the kid sort of pretends to be an ancient fish or pretends to be a early ape.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Wow. So how long have you been working on Over the Edge?
So I've been working on Over the Edge for a couple of years now. I think I started it really in earnest a year and a half ago. I had to do some hypothesizing. I had to do some thinking about it to make sure that I really was going to be able to do it. So some of the work was just like going over in my head what it would take for me to do the game right.
Mm-hmm.
But on the other hand, I have been sort of developing my skills as a game designer, obviously, for all these 25 years, and picking up things like the questions from Everway, or the idea of creating a game master character to suit a player character that comes out of Luke Crane's Burning Wheel. I picked up all these sort of cool ideas and put them together, and it's really nice to be able to come back to this game that had so much promise and did so much 25 years ago, and really to be able to update it, really make it sort of even more story forward than it was before.
And obviously, it's people agree that they want to see this game since it's already funded.
Yeah.
And you've got some stretch goals here. So let's talk a little bit about what people get when they contribute to the Kickstarter, and what are the sort of stretch goals you've got coming up.
Sure. Yeah, you bet. So, the basic thing is for $40 you get the print game, which is going to be more than that at retail, and you also get the whole thing as in digital format. And we also have dice. Obviously, the game is all about rolling 2 dice, and so we have a set of custom designed dice that come in pairs by color, and that have the 3s and the 4s marks, so you remember that the 3s are bad and the 4s are good, so those are cute. And there is a Lux version of the game, the collector's edition, which literally has a metallic cover. Like I'll believe it when I see it, but it sounds like really something. And then if we can hit our stretch goals, we're going to do a poster map, and that would be really cool because it's another country, it's another place, and so a big map to bring the players together would be really cool. It looks like we're going to get a foil wrapped cover and a bookmark ribbon for the core book because that's our stretch goal at 75,000, and we already hit 50. And so the $100,000 stretch goal for poster map, we're probably going to hit that too.
Yeah, that is awesome.
So I mean, easy at this rate. So we'll have to come up with some more stretch goals and reward levels. We've got 10 prestige levels at the top end where you can get you can contribute to the book somehow, and those both of those are all pledged within the first 24 hours. So we're going to have to, we've been surprised by the demand. I guess we're going to have to go back to the drawing board and add some more stuff on the top end.
Yeah, definitely. That is awesome. So congratulations on the success of this. It's no surprise, and it is well deserved. And I am definitely going to go send you my money right now after this Kickstarter, or after this conversation. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I want to offer one more inducement. Well, you're doing a great job plugging it, but the really exciting thing is that when you pledge, you will get a PDF of the current draft of the rules. They're not final or edited, but you can just start reading right now and see exactly what's new and how everything works. And I'm a better writer than I was 25 years ago, that's for sure. So, yeah, you can start playing tonight.
Immediate gratification right there, people. Go check it out right now, Kickstarter.com. Search for Over the Edge, or go to our website and you can check it out there. Jonathan, before we go, obviously it's been amazing to have you, and you are welcome on this show anytime, because you've achieved legendary status not through age, but through deed. But before we go, where can people find you?
Right. So I'm on social media under my real name. So on Twitter, I'm Jonathan M, as in Michael Tweet. I'm on G Plus because I really am a geek. So Jonathan Tweet. And there's a Jonathan Tweet author page on Facebook, so you can follow me on any of those. And there's some Over the Edge support on Google Plus and stuff you can follow there. And I wouldn't be surprised if we're going to put some more Over the Edge stuff someplace else. But yeah, just Google my name and you can find me. I'm everywhere. And Grandmother Fish, my my sideline doing evolution stuff for kids, is all on there too.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today on Tabletop Babble, Jonathan.
Man, that was an amazing interview. Always a pleasure to be able to talk to a legend like Jonathan Tweet. People, Tabletop Babble is still a new show, and you can help us grow. Go on to iTunes and please leave us a 5-star review. It helps other people find the show. And if you leave us a 5-star review, I will read it out loud verbatim on the show. You can make me say anything you want. And don't forget to follow me on Twitter. That's at James Introcaso. And you can follow my blog for all of the game design stuff that I'll be doing and 5th edition resources and stuff like that. Got some awesome announcements coming up real soon. That is worldbuilderblog.me. Tabletop Babble is a show on the Don't Split the Podcast Network. Thanks to Rudy Basso for founding it with me. Our theme music, which you're listening to right now, was provided by Battle Bards. Don't forget that RPGs are like sex. Before you get down to it, make sure you really know everybody at the table.
Hey, it's Mike Shea of Sly Flourish and author of The Lazy Dungeon Master and Sly Flourish's Fantastic Locations. My show, The DM's Deep Dive on the Don't Split the Podcast Network, features a one-on-one discussion with guests like Sean Merwin, Enrique Bertrand, Teos Abadia, and more. Once a month, we dive deep into a single D&D topic and answer your burning DM questions. Watch us live on Twitch, on YouTube, or on our podcast on the Don't Split the Podcast Network. Let's dive deep.